Returning home after a long and exhausting business trip, I was looking forward to nothing more than the comforting embrace of my wife, Jessica. Little did I know that my world was about to come crashing down around me. As I walked through the front door, the house was eerily silent. Expecting Jessica to greet me with her usual warmth, I called out her name, but there was no response. I headed upstairs, my footsteps echoing in the stillness of our home. When I reached our bedroom, the door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and what I saw inside froze me to the core. Jessica was in our bed, but she wasn't alone. My best friend Mike was there with her, their bodies entangled in a way that left no room for doubt. For a moment I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The betrayal hit me like a freight train, and my mind raced with disbelief and fury. They didn't even notice me standing there, too lost in their moment of passion. I wanted to scream, to shout, to make them feel the pain that was tearing me apart inside. But instead, I turned and walked out, my footsteps heavy and deliberate. I went downstairs, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. The initial shock was giving way to a cold, simmering rage. I knew I had to confront Jessica, but I also knew that shouting and accusations wouldn't change what had happened. I needed to stay calm, to understand why she had done this and what it meant for us. Minutes later, Jessica came down, her face pale as she realized I had seen everything. "Jack," she started, her voice trembling. "I can explain." "Explain?" I echoed, barely able to keep my voice steady. "Explain how you ended up in bed with my best friend." "Go ahead, Jessica. I'm all ears." Tears welled up in her eyes as she tried to justify her actions. She spoke of loneliness, of feeling neglected while I was away on business trips. She said Mike had been there for her, offering comfort and support when she felt most vulnerable. Listening to her, a part of me wanted to believe her excuses, to forgive and move on. But the pain of her betrayal was too deep, and my mind was already plotting its course. I decided then and there that I would not forgive, nor would I forget. I would make her feel the same agony she had inflicted on me. As Jessica continued to plead, I cut her off. "Enough," I said, my voice cold and resolute. "You've made your choices, and now I'll make mine." Leaving her standing there, I walked out of the house, the first seeds of my revenge taking root in my mind. If Jessica thought she could betray me without consequences, she was gravely mistaken. This was just the beginning, and I was determined to see it through to the bitter end. In the days that followed, I found myself drifting through a haze of anger and disbelief. The image of Jessica and Mike in our bed was seared into my mind, a constant reminder of their betrayal. Despite the storm raging inside me, I knew I had to maintain a facade of normalcy. I couldn't afford to let Jessica or anyone else see how deeply I was hurting. I went through the motions of everyday life, but everything felt hollow and meaningless. At work, I forced a smile and pretended to be engaged in meetings, but my thoughts were always elsewhere. I kept replaying that moment in my mind, trying to make sense of it, to find a way to move past it. But the pain was relentless, and it was clear that forgiveness was not an option. One evening, after a particularly long day at the office, I found myself at a bar downtown. I needed an escape, a distraction from the turmoil consuming me. As I nursed my drink, I couldn't help but think about how everything had fallen apart so suddenly. That's when I noticed her. Lisa. Lisa was an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. We'd gone to college together, and she'd always had a thing for me, though we'd never acted on it. Seeing her there, looking as radiant as ever, sparked something inside me. Maybe it was fate, or maybe it was just the universe offering me a chance at retribution. "Jack, is that you?" Lisa's voice brought me back to reality. I turned and smiled, genuinely pleased to see her. "Lisa, it's been ages. How have you been?" We spent the next few hours catching up, reminiscing about old times, and sharing stories about our lives since college. It felt good to talk to someone who didn't know about the mess my life had become. Lisa was charming, funny, and most importantly, interested in me. As the night wore on, I realized that this was the opportunity I'd been looking for. Before we parted ways, I asked for her number. "We should do this again sometime," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. Lisa smiled, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "I'd like that, Jack. It was great catching up." Over the next few weeks, Lisa and I started seeing each other more frequently. We went out for dinners, movies, and long walks in the park. I found myself genuinely enjoying her company, but there was always a part of me that remembered why I was doing this. It wasn't just about finding comfort or moving on. It was about making Jessica feel the same pain I felt. One night, after a particularly enjoyable evening out, Lisa invited me back to her place. As we sat on her couch, talking and laughing, I felt a sense of inevitability. This was it, the moment I'd been planning for. I leaned in and kissed her, and she responded eagerly. We spent the night together, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a semblance of satisfaction. The next morning, as I lay in bed beside Lisa, I couldn't help but think about Jessica. This was just the beginning. My revenge was in motion, and there was no turning back. I would make sure she knew exactly how it felt to be betrayed by the person you trusted most. Returning home later that day, I was met with Jessica's concerned gaze. "Where were you last night?" she asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. "Out with friends," I replied nonchalantly, brushing past her. I needed some time to clear my head. Jessica didn't press further, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She knew something was different, and that was exactly what I wanted. This was just the beginning of my plan, and I was determined to see it through to the end, no matter the cost. Maintaining a semblance of normalcy at home was exhausting, but it was necessary. Jessica's wary glances and hesitant questions were a constant reminder that she was on edge, aware that something had shifted between us. I needed her to feel that uncertainty, to wonder what was happening and why. It was all part of my plan. My relationship with Lisa continued to flourish. We spent more time together, growing closer with each passing day. She was everything I needed at that moment, supportive, understanding, and blissfully unaware of the turmoil in my personal life. I told myself that my actions were justified, that I was evening the score. One evening, while sitting at a cafe with Lisa, I received a text message from Amanda, another old friend I had recently reconnected with. Amanda and I had always shared a flirtatious rapport, but it had never gone beyond that. Now, with my newfound resolve, I saw her as another piece of my intricate plan. "Who's that?" Lisa asked playfully, noticing my distraction. "Just a friend," I replied, quickly putting my phone away. "Nothing important." But it was important. Amanda was intrigued by my sudden interest, and I knew it wouldn't take much to draw her in. Over the next few days, I intensified my efforts, sending casual, flirtatious messages that gradually became more suggestive. Amanda responded eagerly, and soon enough, we arranged to meet. When the day came, I made sure to leave the house with a believable excuse. Jessica barely looked up from her book as I told her I was meeting an old college friend for drinks. I could see the doubt in her eyes, but she said nothing, which suited me perfectly. Let her wonder, let her doubt. This was all part of my revenge. Meeting Amanda at a trendy downtown bar, I felt a familiar excitement. We laughed and reminisced, the chemistry between us undeniable. As the night progressed, our conversation grew more personal and more intimate. By the time we left the bar, it was clear where the evening was headed. We ended up at her apartment, and as we kissed passionately, I felt a surge of satisfaction. This was it, the next step in my plan. As we lay together afterward, I couldn't help but think about Jessica, about the look on her face if she ever found out. The thought both thrilled and saddened me. This was not who I used to be, but it was who I had become out of necessity. Returning home in the early hours of the morning, I found Jessica waiting for me in the living room. Her eyes were red as if she had been crying. "Where have you been, Jack?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Out," I replied curtly, not meeting her gaze. "Why does it matter?" "Because I'm worried about you, about us," she said, her voice breaking. "I know I made a mistake, but I want to fix things. Please, talk to me." I looked at her, feeling a pang of guilt that I quickly suppressed. "There's nothing to talk about, Jessica. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." Her tears began to flow freely, but I walked past her, heading to the bedroom. I knew she was hurting, but I couldn't afford to soften now. I had to see this through, to make her understand the depth of my pain. Lying in bed, I thought about Lisa and Amanda, about the double life I was leading. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about taking control of my life, of my emotions. Jessica's betrayal had shattered me, but now I was piecing myself back together, one act of retribution at a time. As I drifted off to sleep, I knew that the game had only just begun. There were more moves to make and more steps to take. Jessica would learn one way or another that actions have consequences, and I would be the one to teach her that lesson. Living a double life was beginning to take its toll. The constant need to juggle my time between Jessica, Lisa, and now Amanda was exhausting, but the satisfaction I derived from my actions kept me going. I had become adept at lying, covering my tracks, and presenting a calm exterior while a storm raged within. Jessica's suspicion grew with each passing day. She watched me closely, her eyes filled with questions she was too afraid to ask. I could see the pain and confusion on her face, but I refused to relent. This was her doing, and she needed to understand the depth of her betrayal. One evening, as I was getting ready to meet Amanda, Jessica cornered me in the kitchen. "Jack, we need to talk," she said, her voice firm but trembling. I sighed, not in the mood for another confrontation. "What is it, Jessica? Where do you go every night? Who are you seeing?" she demanded, her eyes searching mine for any hint of truth. "I'm just spending time with friends, trying to clear my head," I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. "Don't lie to me," she snapped, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know you're seeing someone. Just tell me the truth." I looked at her, feeling a mixture of anger and pity. "You want the truth, Jessica? Fine. Yes, I've been seeing someone. I've been seeing more than one person. But can you blame me? After what you did?" Her face paled, and she took a step back as if I had struck her. I didn't know it was this bad," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Well, now you do," I said coldly, pushing past her. "I've got somewhere to be." I left the house, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction. The look on Jessica's face had been priceless, but there was still more to do. Meeting Amanda, I threw myself into the evening, trying to forget the confrontation with Jessica. Amanda was a welcome distraction, her presence a reminder that I was still desirable, still in control. The next morning, I woke up next to Amanda, feeling a strange sense of detachment. This was becoming routine, and the initial thrill of my revenge was starting to fade. As I lay there, I began to wonder if this was the answer. Could I ever truly move on from Jessica's betrayal, or was I doomed to repeat this cycle of hurt and vengeance? Returning home, I found Jessica waiting for me again. This time she looked resigned, her shoulders slumped in defeat. "Jack, I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't keep pretending that everything is okay." I felt a pang of guilt but quickly pushed it aside. "What are you saying, Jessica?" "I'm saying that we need to end this," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "This marriage is over. There's no fixing it. Not after everything that's happened." For a moment, I felt a surge of relief. This was what I had wanted, wasn't it? To make her feel the same pain, to push her to the breaking point. But as I looked at her, I realized that I felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory, just an overwhelming emptiness. "Maybe you're right," I said, my voice hollow. "Maybe it's time to let go." Jessica nodded, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I loved you, Jack. I still do, but we can't go on like this." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of our decisions pressing down on us. At that moment, I realized that my quest for revenge had consumed me, leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. There was no going back, no undoing the damage that had been done. As we began the process of untangling our lives, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Would I ever find peace, or would I be haunted by the choices I had made? Only time would tell. But for now, all I could do was take it one day at a time, trying to rebuild from the ruins of my broken marriage. With the decision to end our marriage, a heavy burden seemed to lift off my shoulders, replaced by a numbing emptiness. Jessica and I moved through the house like ghosts, avoiding each other as we began the process of dividing our lives. The home that once held so much warmth now felt cold and unfamiliar. I continued to see Lisa and Amanda, but the excitement I once felt had dulled. Instead of satisfaction, there was a growing sense of guilt and regret. I had set out to make Jessica feel my pain, but now I was beginning to question if it had been worth it. My actions had only added to the hurt and confusion, leaving me feeling more lost than ever. One evening, as I sat alone in my apartment, Lisa called. "Hey, Jack, I was thinking maybe we could spend the weekend together, get away from everything for a while." I hesitated, knowing that escaping with Lisa wouldn't solve anything. I don't know, Lisa. I've got a lot on my mind. Please, Jack, she urged. I feel like you're slipping away. I want to help you, to be there for you. Her sincerity touched me, and I agreed, hoping that a change of scenery might bring some clarity. We drove up to a cabin in the mountains, a secluded spot where we could forget about everything for a while. As we settled into the cozy cabin, Lisa did her best to lift my spirits. We hiked through the forest, cooked meals together, and spent long evenings by the fire. Despite her efforts, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was using her to fill a void that couldn't be filled. One night, as we sat by the fire, Lisa turned to me, her eyes filled with concern. Jack, I know you're hurting, but you need to let go of the past if you ever want to move forward. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I don't know how, I admitted. Everything feels so wrong, so empty. Then maybe it's time to find out what you want, she said softly. You can't keep punishing yourself. Or Jessica. It's not going to make anything better. I stared into the flames, her words echoing in my mind. She was right. My quest for revenge had only deepened my pain, and it was time to stop. But what did I want? What was the path to healing? Returning from the weekend with Lisa, I felt a new resolve. It was time to face the consequences of my actions and make amends where I could. The first step was to talk to Amanda, to end things before they got more complicated. When I met Amanda for coffee, she greeted me with a warm smile. Jack, it's so good to see you. I've missed you. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the conversation. Amanda, I need to talk to you about something important. Her smile faded as she sensed the seriousness in my tone. What's wrong? I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realized that I've been using you to get back at Jessica. It's not fair to you, and I'm truly sorry. Amanda looked hurt, but she nodded, understanding. I appreciate your honesty, Jack. It hurts, but I'd rather know the truth. I never meant to hurt you, I continued. You deserve better than being part of my revenge scheme. I need to figure out my own life before I can be with anyone. Amanda reached across the table, squeezing my hand. I hope you find what you're looking for, Jack. And if you ever need a friend, I'm here. With that chapter of my life closed, I knew the hardest part was yet to come, making amends with Jessica. We had already started the process of divorce, but there was still so much left unsaid, so much unresolved. I found Jessica in the living room, surrounded by boxes as she packed up her things. Can we talk? I asked, my voice hesitant. She looked up, surprised. Sure, Jack, what's on your mind? I just wanted to say that I'm sorry, I began, struggling to find the right words. Sorry for everything, for my anger, my revenge. I realize now that it didn't solve anything. It only made things worse. Jessica's eyes softened, and she nodded. I know. I'm sorry, too, for betraying your trust. We both made mistakes, and I hope we can learn from them. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our words sinking in. What happens now? She asked quietly. I don't know, I admitted. But I think it's time to stop hurting each other and start healing. Maybe in time we can find a way to be at peace with all of this. Jessica smiled sadly. I hope so, Jack. I do. As we continued to pack up the remnants of our life together, I felt a glimmer of hope. The road to healing would be long and difficult, but it was a journey I was ready to begin. It was time to let go of the past and look towards the future, one step at a time. The days following our conversation were a blur of paperwork and packing. Jessica and I divided our possessions. The once cozy home was now a battlefield of memories and belongings. Each item we packed away carried a piece of our shared past, a bittersweet reminder of what we had lost and what we were trying to leave behind. One afternoon, as I sorted through a box of old photographs, I came across a picture of us on our wedding day. We looked so happy, so full of hope and love. I couldn't help but wonder how everything had gone so wrong. But dwelling on the past wouldn't change anything. It was time to focus on the future. I decided to move out first, leaving the house to Jessica until she found a new place. I found a small apartment across town, a modest but comfortable space where I could start over. Moving in felt strange, like stepping into a new chapter of my life. The emptiness of the apartment mirrored the emptiness I felt inside. but it also represented a blank slate, a chance to rebuild. One evening, shortly after settling into my new place, Lisa called. "Hey Jack, how are you holding up?" "I'm managing," I replied, grateful for her concern. "It's strange starting over like this. Do you need any help? Unpacking or just some company?" she offered. I hesitated, not wanting to burden her, but the thought of spending another night alone was unappealing. "Sure, that would be great. Thanks, Lisa." Lisa arrived a short while later, bringing with her a warmth and familiarity that I desperately needed. We spent the evening unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, and talking about anything and everything. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of normalcy returning. As we sat on the couch, exhausted but content, Lisa looked at me thoughtfully. "You know, Jack, you've been through a lot. It's okay to take your time to heal." "I know," I said, appreciating her understanding. "I just didn't realize how hard it would be." She smiled, her hand resting on mine. "You're stronger than you think, and you don't have to go through this alone." Her words were a comfort, a reminder that I had people who cared about me, but I also knew that I needed to find my way forward. Lisa was a wonderful friend, but I couldn't rely on her to fix everything for me. The next few weeks were a period of adjustment. I threw myself into work, finding solace in the routine and the distraction it provided. I reconnected with old friends, people I had lost touch with over the years. Their support and encouragement were invaluable, helping me to slowly rebuild my confidence and sense of self. One weekend, I decided to take a trip out of town, to a place where I could clear my head and reflect. I chose a quiet beachside town a few hours' drive away, a place where I could find peace and solitude. Walking along the shore, the sound of the waves and the fresh sea breeze calmed my restless mind. As I stood at the water's edge, I thought about everything that had happened: Jessica's betrayal, my misguided revenge, the pain and heartache we had both endured. It was time to let go of the anger and resentment, to forgive her and myself. Holding on to the past would only prevent me from moving forward. Returning home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I reached out to Jessica, suggesting that we meet one last time before finalizing the divorce. She agreed, and we chose a neutral place, a small cafe we used to visit when we were first dating. Sitting across from her, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. "I'm glad we could do this," I said, breaking the silence. "Me too," Jessica replied, her eyes reflecting the same emotions. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize that we both made mistakes, but I don't want to leave things on a bad note." "Neither do I agreed. "I think it's important to forgive each other and ourselves if we're going to move on." We talked for a long time, sharing memories and regrets, hopes and fears. It was a cathartic conversation, one that allowed us to finally let go of the past. By the time we parted ways, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. As I walked back to my car, I realized that this was the beginning of my journey towards healing. There would still be challenges and difficult days ahead, but I was ready to face them. It was time to build a new life, one step at a time, and to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. With a renewed sense of determination, I drove back to my apartment, ready to start this new chapter. The road to healing would be long, but I was finally on the right path. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. With the divorce behind me and a newfound sense of purpose, I began to take small steps toward rebuilding my life. I focused on work, but also made an effort to reconnect with people and activities that once brought me joy. It was a gradual process, and while not every day was easy, the promise of a better future kept me moving forward. One Saturday morning, I received a message from an old college friend, Tom, inviting me to a reunion gathering. We hadn't seen each other in years, but his timing felt serendipitous. Eager to reconnect and reminisce about happier times, I agreed to join. The reunion was held at a picturesque vineyard on the outskirts of town. As I drove up, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Seeing old friends would be a welcome distraction, but it also meant revisiting a part of my past that had been overshadowed by recent events. Stepping out of the car, I was greeted by Tom's hearty laugh. "Jack, it's been too long, man," he exclaimed, pulling me into a bear hug. "Tom, it's great to see you," I replied, genuinely happy to be there. "This place is amazing." "Wait till you see everyone. It's like no time has passed at all," he said, leading me toward a large group gathered around a table. As we approached, I recognized familiar faces, each one bringing back a flood of memories. There was Karen, the class clown, Dave, the quiet genius, and Natalie, my freshman year roommate. We spent the afternoon catching up, sharing stories, and laughing about the good old days. It was a welcome reprieve from the stress and isolation I had felt over the past months. At one point, I found myself in a deep conversation with Natalie. She had always been a good friend, someone I could talk to about anything. "So, Jack, how have you been holding up?" she asked, her eyes filled with genuine concern. I hesitated, unsure of how much to share, but something about her warm, understanding gaze made me open up. "It's been tough, Nat. Jessica and I split up, and I've been trying to pick up the pieces." She nodded, offering a sympathetic smile. "I heard about that. I'm sorry, Jack. Divorce is never easy." "No, it's not," I agreed. "But I'm trying to move on, to find some semblance of normalcy." Natalie reached out and squeezed my hand. "You will. You're stronger than you think, and you've got friends who care about you." Her words were a balm to my wounded spirit, reminding me that I wasn't alone. As the day turned into evening, the conversations grew more intimate, and the bonds of friendship that had frayed over time began to mend. Later that night, as the reunion wound down, Tom pulled me aside. "Hey, Jack, a few of us are heading to the old hangout spot by the lake. You in?" I smiled, remembering the countless nights we had spent there, talking about our dreams and futures. "Absolutely. Lead the way." The drive to the lake was filled with laughter and nostalgic banter. When we arrived, the moonlight reflected off the water, casting a serene glow over the familiar landscape. We built a small fire and sat around it, the crackling flames adding to the warmth of the evening. As we talked, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. These were my friends, my tribe, and being with them reminded me of who I was before everything fell apart. It was a powerful realization that despite the pain and betrayal, there was still a part of me that could be whole again. Tom raised a toast, his voice carrying a mix of sincerity and mischief. "To old friends and new beginnings, may we always find our way back to each other." "To new beginnings," I echoed, feeling the weight of those words. It was time to embrace this new chapter, to let go of the past, and to focus on the possibilities that lay ahead. As the fire died down and we prepared to leave, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Reconnecting with my past has given me the strength to face the future. The road ahead might be uncertain, but with friends like these by my side, I knew I could handle whatever came my way. Driving back to my apartment, I felt lighter and more at peace than I had in a long time. It was time to rebuild, to find joy in the present and hope for the future. And with each passing day, I knew I was getting closer to the life I wanted, the life I deserved. Life began to settle into a new rhythm. My days were filled with work, reconnecting with old friends, and exploring interests that I had neglected during my marriage. The pain of Jessica's betrayal still lingered, but it no longer consumed me. I was healing, slowly but surely, and learning to embrace the future. One crisp autumn morning, I decided to visit a local farmer's market. It had been years since I'd last gone, and I was looking forward to the sights, sounds, and flavors that only a bustling market could offer. Strolling through the stalls, I marveled at the vibrant array of fresh produce, handmade crafts, and delicious baked goods. As I browsed a stall selling artisanal bread, a familiar voice called out my name. "Jack, is that you?" Turning around, I saw a woman with dark hair and bright blue eyes that sparkled with recognition. It took a moment, but then it clicked. "Claire? Wow, it's been ages." Claire had been my high school sweetheart, someone I hadn't seen in over a decade. We had parted ways amicably when we went off to different colleges, but seeing her now brought back a flood of memories. "It has been ages," she agreed, smiling warmly. "What brings you to the market?" "Just exploring," I replied, still a bit taken aback by the serendipity of our meeting. "How about you?" "I'm here every Saturday. I sell homemade jams and preserves," she said, gesturing to a nearby stall adorned with colorful jars. "That's amazing," I said, genuinely impressed. "I'd love to try some." We spent the next hour catching up. Claire told me about her journey from college to starting her own business, and I shared the highlights of my career and recent life changes. It felt natural, like no time had passed, and yet so much had changed. "So, how have you been, really?" she asked, her tone more serious. I hesitated, unsure of how much to divulge, but something was comforting about Claire's presence, something that made me want to be honest. It's been a rough year. Jessica and I got divorced. Claire's expression softened with sympathy. I'm sorry to hear that, Jack. Divorce is never easy. No, it's not, I admitted, but I'm working through it, trying to find my way again. She nodded, offering a supportive smile. You're stronger than you think. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. Thanks, Claire. That means a lot, I said, feeling a warmth spread through me at her words. We exchanged numbers, promising to stay in touch. As I continued to explore the market, I couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. Reconnecting with Claire had been unexpected, but it was a reminder that life was full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises could lead to something good. Over the next few weeks, Claire and I began to see each other more often. We met for coffee, took long walks in the park, and even went to a few local events together. It was refreshing to spend time with someone who knew me so well and who had no ties to the painful parts of my recent past. One evening, as we sat on a bench overlooking the city skyline, Claire turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Jack, do you ever think about what might have been? Sometimes, I admitted, gazing at the twinkling lights below. But I try not to dwell on the past. It's more about what could be now. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the same hope I felt. I like that. What could be now? As the weeks turned into months, my relationship with Claire deepened. It wasn't just about rekindling an old flame. It was about building something new, something grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Claire had a way of making me feel seen, of reminding me that I was capable of love and happiness again. One crisp winter evening, as we walked through a snow-covered park, I took Claire's hand in mine. Claire, I'm really glad we reconnected, I said, my breath visible in the cold air. Me too, Jack, she replied, squeezing my hand. It feels like a second chance, doesn't it? It does, I agreed, pulling her closer. And I'm not going to waste it. Standing there, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the snow-covered landscape, I felt a sense of peace and hope. The road to healing had been long and difficult, but I had finally found my way back to happiness. With Claire by my side, I knew that the future held endless possibilities. As we walked back to her place, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the unexpected twists and turns that had led me here. Life was unpredictable, but it was also full of second chances and new beginnings. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. As my relationship with Claire blossomed, the remnants of my old life began to fade. Jessica and I finalized our divorce, and we both seemed to be moving on. However, there was still one unresolved issue that weighed heavily on my mind: the truth about our children. One evening, while Claire and I were having dinner at my apartment, I felt the need to confide in her about the doubts I had been carrying. Claire, there's something I need to talk to you about, something that's been bothering me for a while. She put down her fork, looking at me with concern. What is it, Jack? I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. It's about Jessica and the kids. During our marriage, I discovered that Jessica had been unfaithful, and it made me question if the children were mine. Claire's eyes widened with surprise, but she remained calm. That's a heavy burden to carry, Jack. Have you ever confronted her about it? No, I admitted. I've been too afraid to find out the truth. But I think it's time to face it, once and for all. Claire reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. I'm here for you, whatever you decide to do. Just know that you don't have to go through this alone. Her support gave me the courage I needed. The next day, I reached out to Jessica, asking if we could meet to discuss something important. She agreed, and we arranged to meet at a neutral location, a quiet park where we could talk without interruptions. As I approached the park bench where Jessica was waiting, I felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. This conversation was long overdue, and I needed answers. Hi, Jessica, I said, sitting down beside her. Thanks for meeting me. Of course, Jack, she replied, her expression guarded. What's on your mind? I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what was to come. I need to know the truth, Jessica. During our marriage, you were unfaithful, and it made me question if the children are mine. Her face paled, and she looked away, clearly distressed. Jack, I never wanted to hurt you, but I understand why you have doubts. Please, Jessica, I said, my voice steady. I need to know the truth. It's the only way I can move forward. After a long pause, she finally spoke. Jack, I'm so sorry. I made mistakes, and I was unfaithful. I don't know for certain if the children are biologically yours. I was too afraid to find out myself. Her admission hit me like a punch to the gut, but it also brought a strange sense of relief. The uncertainty had been a heavy weight on my shoulders, and now that it was out in the open, I could begin to address it. I appreciate your honesty, Jessica, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But we need to find out the truth, for the sake of the children. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. Let's do what we need to do. We arranged for a paternity test, the process both straightforward and emotionally charged. The waiting period was agonizing, but Claire was by my side, offering unwavering support. I couldn't have faced this ordeal without her. Finally, the results came in. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope, my heart pounding. As I read the words, a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. The test confirmed that I was not the biological father of the children. Tears filled my eyes as I tried to process the news. The children I had loved and raised were not mine by blood, but that didn't change the bond I felt with them. They were still a part of my life, and I still cared deeply for them. I met with Jessica again to discuss the results. So, it's true, I said quietly, handing her the envelope. She looked at the results, her face crumpling with guilt and sorrow. I'm so sorry, Jack. I know this doesn't change how much you love them, but I understand if you need to take a step back. I love them, Jessica, I said firmly. They may not be my biological children, but that doesn't change how I feel about them. I still want to be a part of their lives if that's possible. Jessica nodded. Relief is evident in her eyes. They love you too, Jack, and I think it's important for them to have you in their lives. We agreed to work out a new arrangement, one that allowed me to remain involved in the children's lives while acknowledging the new reality. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. With the truth finally out in the open, I felt a sense of closure. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but I was no longer burdened by doubt and secrecy. I could move forward with a clear conscience, knowing that I had faced the truth and made peace with it. Returning home that evening, I found Claire waiting for me. She embraced me, her presence a comforting anchor in the storm of emotions. How are you feeling? She asked gently. I'm okay, I replied, holding her close. It's been a tough day, but I feel like a weight has been lifted. I can finally move forward. Claire smiled, her eyes filled with love and support. And I'll be right here with you, every step of the way. Together we faced the future with renewed hope and determination. The past no longer held me captive, and I was ready to embrace the new beginnings that lay ahead. With the truth about the children finally revealed, a sense of closure settled over me. It wasn't the ending I had hoped for, but it was a new beginning, a chance to rebuild my life on a foundation of honesty and authenticity. Jessica and I worked out a new arrangement, ensuring I remained a part of the children's lives despite the revelations. It was a bittersweet compromise, but one that allowed us all to move forward. My relationship with Claire continued to deepen. Her unwavering support and understanding were a beacon of hope, guiding me through the emotional turmoil. She helped me see that love and family were about more than just blood. They were about the connections we chose to nurture and the commitments we made to one another. One Saturday afternoon, Claire and I decided to take the children to the local zoo. It was the first outing we had planned together, and I was eager to see how they would respond to Claire. The kids, always full of energy and curiosity, were excited about the adventure. As we wandered through the zoo, stopping to admire the animals and read the informational plaques, I watched Claire interact with the children. She was patient and kind, answering their questions and engaging them in conversation. It was heartwarming to see the bond forming between them. At one point, as we stood by the lion enclosure, my daughter, Emma, tugged on Claire's sleeve. Claire, can you lift me so I can see better? Claire smiled and obliged, hoisting Emma onto her shoulders. The sight of them together brought a lump to my throat. This was what I had always wanted, a loving, supportive partner who cared about my children as much as I did. After a full day of exploring, we sat down for a picnic on the zoo's lawn. As we ate sandwiches and shared stories, I felt a profound sense of contentment. This was my new reality, and it was better than I could have imagined. Later that evening, after we had dropped the kids off at Jessica's, Claire and I returned to my apartment. We sat on the couch, enjoying a quiet moment together. "You're amazing with the kids," I said, squeezing her hand. "Thank you for today." Claire smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "They're great kids, Jack. I love spending time with them. And with you." I kissed the top of her head, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I'm so lucky to have you in my life." Over the next few weeks, our lives settled into a comfortable routine. I continued to see the children regularly, and Claire often joined us for our outings. We became a blended family, navigating the challenges and joys of our new situation together. One evening, as Claire and I were preparing dinner, she turned to me with a serious expression. "Jack, there's something I've been thinking about." I put down the knife I was using to chop vegetables and looked at her, concerned. "What is it?" "I love you," she said, taking my hands in hers. "And I love the kids. I want us to be a family officially." Her words took me by surprise, but they also filled me with joy. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" She nodded, her eyes shining with emotion. "I want us to get married, Jack. I want to build a life together, with you and the kids." I pulled her into a tight embrace, overwhelmed by the love I felt for her. "I want that too, Claire. More than anything." We spent the rest of the evening making plans for our future, excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. The past had been filled with pain and betrayal, but the future was bright with promise. A few weeks later, we gathered with close friends and family for an intimate wedding ceremony. Jessica and the kids were there, supporting us as we took this important step. It was a beautiful, emotional day, filled with love and joy. As Claire and I exchanged vows, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had taken us on a difficult journey, but it had also brought us to this moment, a moment of healing, love, and new beginnings. Surrounded by the people we loved, we pledged to support and cherish each other, to build a life filled with happiness and resilience. And as I looked into Claire's eyes, I knew that we were ready to face whatever challenges came our way, together. Our new life was just beginning, and I was filled with hope and excitement for the future. With Claire by my side, and the children as a central part of our lives, I knew that we could overcome any obstacle. We were a family, bound by love and commitment, and nothing could tear us apart. As we walked down the aisle, hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. The past no longer haunted me. It had shaped me into the person I am today, ready to embrace the future with open arms. Life with Claire was everything I had hoped for and more. Our blended family thrived, and the children adjusted well to the new dynamics. We found joy in the small moments, family dinners, weekend outings, and cozy nights at home. For the first time in a long while, I felt genuinely happy and content. However, just as things were starting to settle into a comfortable rhythm, an unforeseen twist threatened to disrupt our newfound peace. It began with a phone call on a quiet Tuesday evening. I was in the kitchen, helping Claire prepare dinner when my phone rang. Seeing Jessica's name on the caller ID, I answered, expecting it to be about the children. "Jack, we need to talk," Jessica said, her voice tense. "Can you come over?" I felt a knot form in my stomach. "Is everything okay? Are the kids all right?" "They're fine," she reassured me. "But it's important. Please, can you come over?" "I'll be there in 20 minutes," I replied, hanging up and turning to Claire. "Jessica needs to talk. It sounds serious." Claire nodded, concern etched on her face. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No, it's okay," I said, giving her a reassuring kiss. "I'll handle it and let you know what's going on." The drive to Jessica's house felt interminable, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrived, she was waiting for me on the porch, her expression grave. "Jack, come in," she said, leading me into the living room. "We need to talk about something I found out recently." I sat down, my anxiety mounting. "What is it, Jessica?" She took a deep breath, visibly struggling to find the right words. "I've been doing some thinking and some investigating. I wanted to understand more about our past, about everything that happened, and I found out something shocking." I leaned forward, my heart pounding. "What did you find out?" She handed me a folder, her hands trembling. "It's about the children's paternity. I had another test done just to be sure. Jack, the results are different this time." I opened the folder with shaky hands, my eyes scanning the new test results. To my astonishment, they indicated that I was, in fact, the biological father of the children. "How is this possible?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "The first test said I wasn't." "I don't know," Jessica said, tears welling up in her eyes. "But these results are accurate. I double-checked everything. Jack, the children are yours." A flood of emotions washed over me, relief, confusion, anger, and joy all at once. Why did the first test say otherwise? How could this mistake happen? "It must have been a mix-up at the lab," she explained, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry, Jack. I should have trusted you. I should have known." I sat back, trying to process the implications of this revelation. "This changes everything," I said, my mind reeling. "The children, they're mine." "Yes," Jessica said, reaching out to touch my hand. "And I'm so sorry for all the pain this has caused. I know it doesn't fix everything, but I wanted you to know the truth." I stood up, needing space to think. "I need to tell Claire," I said, heading for the door. "This affects all of us." The drive home was a blur. I couldn't believe what I had just learned. My mind raced with the impact this news would have on our lives. When I walked through the door, Claire looked up, her face filled with concern. "Jack, what happened?" she asked, standing up to meet me. "The children," I said, struggling to find the words. "They're mine, Claire. The new test confirms it." Claire's eyes widened in shock. "What? But how?" "There was a mistake with the first test," I explained. "Jessica had another test done, and these results are conclusive. I'm the biological father." She took a deep breath, processing the news. "Jack, this is huge." "I know," I said, taking her hands in mine. "I don't know what it means for us, for our family, but I wanted to tell you right away." Claire's expression softened, and she pulled me into a hug. "We'll figure it out, Jack. Together. The children are a part of our lives no matter what." Over the next few days, Claire and I talked extensively about what this revelation meant for our family. We decided to sit down with the children and explain the situation to them as best we could, ensuring they knew how much they were loved and that nothing would change that. When we had the conversation, Emma and Ben listened quietly, their young minds trying to grasp the complexities of the situation. We reassured them that our love for them was unconditional and that they were a cherished part of our family. Life slowly began to adjust to this new reality. The bond between the children and me grew stronger, and Claire continued to be an unwavering pillar of support. We navigated the challenges and uncertainties together, finding strength in our love and commitment to each other. As we faced this unexpected twist, I realized that life was full of surprises, some painful, some joyful, but all part of the journey. With Claire and the children by my side, I knew we could handle whatever came our way. Our family was stronger than ever, bound by love, resilience, and the promise of a bright future. Adjusting to the newfound reality of my biological connection to the children was a complex and emotional journey. The revelation had shaken the foundations of our lives, but it also presented an opportunity for deeper bonds and healing. Claire and I worked hard to create a supportive environment for the children. We made sure they felt secure and loved, reassuring them that the changes in our family dynamic did not alter our commitment to them. Emma and Ben, resilient and adaptable, responded well to our efforts, their young hearts embracing the love and stability we provided. One Saturday morning, as the four of us sat around the breakfast table, Emma looked up from her cereal, her eyes curious. "Daddy, can we go to the park today?" I smiled, grateful for the sense of normalcy returning to our lives. "Of course, sweetheart. How about we pack a picnic and make a day of it?" The children cheered, and Claire squeezed my hand, her eyes reflecting the same relief and happiness I felt. We spent the day at the park, playing games, flying kites, and enjoying the simple pleasures of being together. The laughter and joy were a balm for our hearts, reminding us of the strength of our family bond. As the weeks passed, we settled into a new normal. I continued to build my relationship with the children, cherishing every moment we spent together. Claire and I grew even closer, our love fortified by the challenges we had overcome. We became a united front, dedicated to nurturing our family and facing the future with optimism. One evening, after putting the children to bed, Claire and I sat on the porch, enjoying the cool night air. She leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. "Jack, I've been thinking about the future," she said softly. "What about the future?" I asked, curious. "I want us to keep building on what we have," she replied. "To create more memories, to keep growing as a family. And I've been thinking, maybe it's time we consider expanding our family." Her words took me by surprise, but also filled me with a warm sense of hope. "You mean having a baby?" Claire nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. "Yes, I think it's something we should talk about." I took her hand, feeling a mix of emotions. The thought of bringing another child into our family was both exhilarating and daunting. But as I looked into Claire's eyes, I knew that together we could handle anything. "I think that's a wonderful idea," I said, pulling her into a kiss. "Let's talk about it and see where it leads us." We spent the next few weeks discussing our hopes and dreams for the future, making plans and setting goals. The prospect of expanding our family brought a renewed sense of purpose and joy to our lives. We took our time, making sure we were ready for this new chapter. Meanwhile, my relationship with Jessica remained cordial. We worked together to ensure the children's well-being, maintaining open communication and mutual respect. It wasn't always easy, but we both understood the importance of putting the children first. One afternoon, as I picked up Emma and Ben from Jessica's house, she pulled me aside. "Jack, I just wanted to say thank you," she said, her voice sincere. "For being there for the kids, for everything." I nodded, appreciating her words. "We're all doing our best, Jessica. The kids come first, always." She smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "Yes, they do, and I'm glad they have you." As I drove home with the children, I reflected on how far we had come. The journey had been filled with unexpected twists and challenges, but it had also brought growth and resilience. Our family, though unconventional, was strong and full of love. That evening, as Claire and I tucked the children into bed, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. We had faced the storms and come out stronger on the other side. Our love for each other and the children was the anchor that kept us steady. As we sat together on the porch once more, Claire looked at me with a contented smile. "We're going to be okay, Jack. No matter what comes our way, we've got this." I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. "Yes, we do. We've got each other, and that's all we need." The future was filled with uncertainty, but also with endless possibilities. With Claire by my side and our family united, I knew we could handle anything. We were ready to embrace whatever came next, confident in the strength of our love and the bonds we had forged. As we faced the next chapter of our lives, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. We had navigated the storms and emerged stronger, ready to build a future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. Life was moving forward, and we were making plans for our future as a family. Claire and I discussed the possibility of having a child, and the excitement of expanding our family brought us even closer. The children were thriving, and our bond as a blended family grew stronger each day. One Friday evening, as we were finishing dinner, the doorbell rang. Claire and I exchanged puzzled looks. We weren't expecting anyone. I stood up to answer the door, the kids following me with curious expressions. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a face I hadn't seen in years, my older brother David. He looked tired and worn, a stark contrast to the vibrant and confident man I remembered. "David?" I said, my voice filled with surprise. "What are you doing here?" "Hey, Jack," he replied, offering a weak smile. "I know it's been a long time. Can I come in?" "Of course," I said, stepping aside to let him in. The kids were wide-eyed with curiosity, and Claire appeared in the doorway, giving David a welcoming nod. As we settled into the living room, I introduced David to Claire and the children. They greeted him warmly, though I could sense their curiosity and slight apprehension. It had been years since David and I had seen each other, and the unexpected visit left me with a mix of emotions. "So, what brings you here, David?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry for just showing up like this. Things haven't been going well for me lately. I needed to get away, find some peace, and think things through. And I thought of you." Claire, sensing the gravity of the situation, spoke up. "You're welcome to stay with us, David. We have a guest room, and you can stay as long as you need." David looked relieved. "Thank you, Claire. I appreciate it." As the evening wore on, David and I caught up on lost time. He shared stories about his struggles, financial troubles, a messy divorce, and the feeling of being lost. I listened, offering support and understanding, realizing how much he had been carrying on his own. The children, sensing the seriousness of our conversation, eventually went to bed, leaving Claire and me alone with David. She sat beside me, her presence a comforting anchor. "David," I said gently, "we're here for you. Whatever you need, we'll help you through this." He nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I know I haven't been the best, Brother Jack, but seeing you here, with your family, gives me hope. Maybe I can find my way back too." Over the next few days, David settled into our home. He helped with household chores, played with the kids, and slowly started to open up about his struggles. Claire and I provided him with the support and space he needed to heal. One evening, as David and I sat on the porch, he looked at me with a seriousness that caught me off guard. "Jack, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Seeing you with your family has made me realize how much I've missed out on. I want to turn my life around, to find happiness again." "You can do it, David," I said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "It won't be easy, but you're not alone. We're here to help you." He nodded, a determined look in his eyes. "Thanks, Jack. I'm ready to make things right." In the weeks that followed, David took steps towards rebuilding his life. He found a job, started attending therapy, and reconnected with old friends. His progress was slow but steady, and I couldn't help but feel proud of him. One Saturday morning, as we sat around the breakfast table, David made an announcement. "I've decided to stay here in town. I found an apartment and a job. I want to be close to you and the kids, to be a part of your lives." The children cheered, and Claire and I exchanged pleased glances. "That's wonderful news, David," Claire said, her smile genuine. "We're glad you're staying." David's decision to stay marked the beginning of a new chapter for all of us. Our family, once fragmented, was slowly coming together, strengthened by love, support, and the shared commitment to face life's challenges head-on. As we navigated this new normal, I realized that life was full of unexpected twists and turns. But with Claire by my side and our family united, I knew we could handle anything. We were stronger together, and no matter what the future held, we would face it as a family. David's decision to stay in town brought a new dynamic to our lives. Having my brother nearby added a layer of support and camaraderie that I hadn't realized I missed. The kids were thrilled to have their uncle around, and Claire welcomed him as part of our family with open arms. One sunny afternoon, we decided to have a barbecue in our backyard. It was a perfect opportunity to bring everyone together, to celebrate the progress we had made and the new chapter we were beginning. Claire and I worked side by side, preparing food while the kids played with David, their laughter filling the air. As we set up the grill, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of contentment. This was what family was all about, supporting each other through thick and thin, creating memories, and building a future together. "Jack, can you pass me the tongs?" Claire asked, interrupting my thoughts. "Sure thing," I replied, handing her the utensils. "This looks great, Claire. Thanks for organizing everything." She smiled, her eyes twinkling. "It's a team effort. I'm just glad we can all be together like this." As we grilled burgers and hot dogs, David joined us, a beer in hand. "This is fantastic, guys. I've missed this. Family gatherings, good food, and laughter." "We're glad you're here, David," Claire said warmly. "You're part of our family now." Later, as we all sat around the picnic table enjoying our meal, Emma and Ben shared stories from school, their faces animated with excitement. David listened intently, asking questions and encouraging them. It was heartwarming to see him so engaged, so present. After dinner, we gathered around the fire pit, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. The children's eyes widened as David recounted some of our childhood adventures, painting vivid pictures of the mischief we used to get into. "Uncle David, tell us more," Ben exclaimed, his marshmallow forgotten as he listened eagerly. "All right, one more story," David said, grinning. "But then it's bedtime, okay?" The kids groaned but agreed, settling in for another tale. As David wrote his story, I looked around at my family, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. We had come so far, and despite the challenges, we had built something beautiful. After the children went to bed, Claire, David, and I stayed by the fire, enjoying the quiet of the night. David turned to me, his expression thoughtful. "Jack, I want to thank you for everything. I've been through a lot, but having you and Claire's support has made all the difference." "You don't need to thank us," I replied. "You're family, David. We're here for you, no matter what." Claire nodded in agreement. "We're proud of you, David. You've made incredible progress, and we're excited to see what the future holds for you." David smiled, genuine happiness in his eyes. "I feel like I'm finally finding my way, and I couldn't have done it without you both." As the fire burned down to embers, we talked about our plans for the future. David was excited about his new job and the possibilities it brought. Claire and I shared our hopes of expanding our family, and we all discussed the trips and adventures we wanted to take together. The sense of unity and support was palpable, and I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Our family was strong, bound by love and resilience, and ready to embrace whatever the future held. As the night came to a close, we said our goodbyes and headed inside. Claire and I stood in the living room reflecting on the day. "This was perfect," she said, leaning into me. "I love our family." "Me too," I replied, wrapping my arms around her. "We're stronger together, and I know we can handle anything that comes our way." The days turned into weeks, and our lives settled into a comfortable rhythm. David continued to make strides in his new job, and his presence brought a sense of stability and joy to our home. The children thrived, their laughter and energy a constant reminder of the love that filled our lives. One evening, as Claire and I were tucking the kids into bed, Emma looked up at me with a thoughtful expression. "Daddy, are we going to have a baby brother or sister soon?" Claire and I exchanged a surprised glance, and she smiled. "We've been talking about it, sweetie. Would you like that?" Emma nodded eagerly. "Yes, I want a baby brother or sister to play with." Ben chimed in, his eyes wide with excitement. "Me too. It would be so much fun." I ruffled Ben's hair, feeling a warmth in my heart. "We'll see what happens, kids. But no matter what, we're always going to be a family." As we left the children's room, Claire took my hand. "They're right, you know. Expanding our family would be wonderful." I nodded, feeling a sense of anticipation and hope. "Let's do it, Claire. Let's keep building this beautiful life together." With our hearts full of love and our minds set on the future, we faced the days ahead with optimism and joy. Our family, united and strong, was ready for whatever adventures awaited us. The journey had been challenging, but it had also brought us closer together, teaching us the true meaning of resilience, love, and family. The days turned into months, and our life together as a family grew even richer. David was thriving in his new job, and his bond with the children deepened with each passing day. Emma and Ben adored their uncle, who never missed a chance to play with them, teach them new things, and share stories of his childhood. Claire and I found ourselves grateful for the extra support and the joyful presence he brought to our home. As winter gave way to spring, Claire and I decided it was time to explore the possibility of expanding our family. We had talked about it at length, and our hearts were set on taking this next step together. We scheduled an appointment with a fertility specialist to discuss our options and to see what the journey ahead might look like. The day of our appointment was filled with a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. We arrived at the clinic hand in hand, ready to face whatever information awaited us. The waiting room was cozy, with soft music playing in the background and the scent of fresh flowers in the air. It was a peaceful setting, but the gravity of the situation wasn't lost on us. When our name was called, we followed the nurse to the consultation room. The doctor, a warm and reassuring woman named Dr. Patel, greeted us with a smile. She explained the process, answered our questions, and guided us through the various options available. The more we talked, the more we felt a sense of hope and determination. "Based on your health history and your preferences, we have a few paths we can explore," Dr. Patel said. "We could consider IVF, or we might look into other assisted reproductive technologies. Let's start with some tests to see where we stand." Claire squeezed my hand, and we nodded in agreement. The tests were scheduled for the following week, and we left the clinic with a plan and a renewed sense of purpose. The journey ahead was daunting, but we were ready to face it together. As the days passed, we adjusted to the new routine. Claire and I supported each other through the ups and downs. finding strength in our love and commitment to each other. David, always the supportive brother, was there for us, offering encouragement and lending a listening ear whenever we needed it. One evening, as we were sitting in the living room, David looked at us with a smile. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about family lately," he said, "and I want you both to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask." "Thanks, David," I said, feeling a lump in my throat. "It means a lot to us. We're lucky to have you." Claire nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You've become such an important—" The months leading up to the baby's arrival were a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. Our home was a flurry of activity, filled with the excitement of new beginnings. Emma and Ben eagerly helped with every task, their enthusiasm infectious as we decorated the nursery, choosing soft pastels and whimsical designs. Claire's pregnancy was a beautiful experience, filled with moments of joy and bonding. Every doctor's visit brought good news, and each ultrasound deepened our connection to the little life growing inside her. David continued to be a pillar of support, always there to lend a hand or share in our excitement. One crisp autumn morning, Claire and I were sitting in the living room sipping tea and enjoying the peaceful silence before the day began. Suddenly, Claire winced, her hand flying to her belly. "Jack, I think it's time," she said, her voice a mix of excitement and nervousness. I jumped to my feet, my heart pounding. "Are you sure? Do you need anything?" Claire smiled, her eyes shining with love. "Yes, I'm sure. Let's get to the hospital." We quickly gathered our things and called David to let him know. He promised to meet us at the hospital with Emma and Ben, who were staying with a neighbor. The drive to the hospital felt surreal, a mixture of anticipation and nerves filling the car. Once we arrived, the medical staff quickly ushered us into a delivery room. Claire's contractions were growing stronger, and I stayed by her side, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement. The hours seemed to stretch on forever, but Claire remained strong and focused, determined to bring our baby into the world. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the moment arrived. Claire gave one last push, and a cry filled the room. Our baby was here. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, placing our newborn son on Claire's chest. Tears of joy streamed down our faces as we gazed at our son, his tiny hands and feet perfect in every way. Claire and I shared a look of profound happiness, knowing that our lives had just changed forever. "Welcome to the world, little one," I whispered, my heart overflowing with love. We named him Ethan, a name we had both loved for its strength and simplicity. Holding him in my arms for the first time was a moment I would never forget, the weight of him a tangible reminder of the love and hope that had brought us here. David arrived shortly after with Emma and Ben in tow. The children's eyes widened with wonder as they saw their baby brother for the first time. "Can we hold him?" Emma asked, her voice filled with awe. "Of course," Claire said, smiling as she carefully handed Ethan to Emma. Ben peered over Emma's shoulder, his eyes shining with excitement. "He's so tiny." "Yes, he is," I said, wrapping an arm around both children. "And he's very lucky to have such a wonderful big sister and brother." David watched the scene with a smile, his eyes misty. "You've done an amazing job, Jack. Your family is beautiful." The days following Ethan's birth were a blur of joy and adjustment. Our home was filled with the sweet sounds of a newborn, and we fell into a new routine. Claire and I took turns with nighttime feedings and diaper changes, finding a rhythm that worked for us. Emma and Ben were eager to help, always ready to fetch a diaper or sing a lullaby. Their bond with Ethan grew stronger each day, and watching them interact with their baby brother filled my heart with pride and love. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, Ethan asleep in my arms, Claire looked at me with a contented smile. "We did it, Jack. We have our family." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "Yes, we did, and it's more than I ever dreamed of." Our family, united by love and resilience, faced each day with joy and gratitude. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had brought us to this beautiful moment. We had weathered the storms and come out stronger, ready to embrace the future together. As I looked at Claire and our children, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, we would face it as a family. The love that bound us together was unbreakable, and with each passing day, we grew closer, our hearts intertwined in a tapestry of hope and happiness. The arrival of Ethan marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with promise and endless possibilities. Our family was complete, and with Claire by my side, I knew we could conquer any challenge and savor every joy that life had to offer. Together, we were unstoppable, and the future was ours to embrace. Life with Ethan brought a sense of completeness to our family that was hard to describe. His arrival had cemented our bond, and each day with him was a new adventure. The household was a constant hum of activity, filled with the joyous chaos that only a newborn could bring. Claire and I navigated the challenges of parenthood with a mix of experience and newfound wonder. We marveled at Ethan's every milestone, from his first smile to his tentative attempts to roll over. Emma and Ben were doting siblings, eager to help and always ready to entertain their baby brother with songs and stories. David's presence continued to be a blessing. He was a hands-on uncle, often taking the older kids on outings to give Claire and me some much-needed rest. His transformation from a man struggling with his demons to a pillar of strength for our family was nothing short of miraculous. One sunny afternoon, as we all sat in the backyard watching Emma and Ben play with Ethan, David turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jack, I've been thinking a lot about my future," he said, his voice steady. "Seeing you with Claire and the kids, it's inspired me. I want to find that kind of happiness for myself." I smiled, proud of the man he was becoming. "You deserve it, David. Have you thought about what you want to do next?" He nodded, looking determined. "I've been considering going back to school, maybe studying counseling. I think my experiences could help others who are going through tough times." "That's a fantastic idea," Claire said, joining the conversation. "You'd be great at it, David. You have so much empathy and wisdom to share." David's eyes brightened at our encouragement. "Thanks, guys. I'm going to look into some programs and see what my options are." As David pursued his new path, Claire and I focused on nurturing our growing family. We made a conscious effort to spend quality time together, planning weekend outings, family game nights, and quiet evenings at home. Each moment was a reminder of how far we had come and how much we had to be grateful for. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Claire and I sat on the porch, enjoying the peaceful night air. "I've been thinking about the future too," she said, her head resting on my shoulder, "about what we want for our family and our lives." I kissed her forehead, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "What do you see when you think about our future?" She smiled, her eyes filled with love. "I see us growing old together, watching our children thrive, and maybe even spoiling some grandchildren one day. I see us continuing to support each other, no matter what life throws our way." "That sounds perfect," I said, my heart swelling with happiness. "And I see us traveling, exploring new places, and creating more memories together. I want to experience everything life has to offer with you by my side." As the years went by, we embraced every opportunity to grow and learn together. Claire and I took a few weekend trips to nearby towns, exploring new restaurants, hiking trails, and scenic views. These small adventures strengthened our bond and reminded us of the importance of nurturing our relationship amidst the demands of parenthood. Emma and Ben continued to flourish, excelling in school and making new friends. They took their roles as big sister and brother seriously, always looking out for Ethan and each other. Watching them grow into kind, thoughtful individuals filled us with pride. David's journey back to school was a source of inspiration for all of us. He excelled in his studies, and his passion for helping others became evident as he shared his experiences and insights. His dedication and perseverance were a testament to the power of transformation and the strength of the human spirit. One day, as we gathered for a family picnic in the park, David shared some exciting news. "I've been offered a position at a counseling center," he announced, his eyes shining with pride. "I'll be working with at-risk youth, helping them navigate their challenges and find their path." "That's amazing, David!" Claire exclaimed, hugging him tightly. "We're so proud of you." The kids cheered, and I shook David's hand, feeling a deep sense of pride. "You're going to make a real difference in those kids' lives, David. They're lucky to have you." As we sat together, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the closeness of family, I realized that we had truly come full circle. The journey had been filled with ups and downs, but it had brought us to this beautiful moment, surrounded by love and hope. The future beckoned with endless possibilities, and with Claire, our children, and David by my side, I knew we were ready to face whatever came our way. Our family, united by love and resilience, was a testament to the power of second chances and the beauty of new beginnings. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the park, I looked at Claire and our children, my heart full of gratitude. We had built a life filled with love, laughter, and hope. As we moved forward, I knew that together, we could conquer any challenge and embrace every joy that life had to offer. The future was bright, and with our family by my side, I was ready to embrace it with open arms. The journey had made us stronger, and our love would continue to guide us through whatever adventures lay ahead. Together, we were unstoppable, and the world was ours to explore.